Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious. You can join us in broadening our minds on the Nameless Debates Discord via the link below and even feature here yourself, if you've got what it takes.
Okay.
What if we have a three-sided coin?
So I have a two-sided coin. So the other side won. So that means InSync's side goes first. So you have 1 minute to put forth your argument.
1 minute. So should I go first, or did one of the other people want to?
InSync, Height, Will, which one of you wants to go first? We're just gonna improv.
Your minute begins as soon as you make the first statement in favor of a particular position. Just so you know.
Okay. You can have 2 minutes to decide who wants to go first.
Will, did you sign up for this? Are you prepared for this, or are you just coming in because no one else showed up for it, like InSync and I?
No, I got some sources.
Okay. You should probably start then, I'd imagine, and then
Alex, please remain muted until it's your team's turn to talk. Thank you.
I could begin. I have a little idea.
Okay, go ahead. Just say when you're starting, and the timer will start.
Whenever you're ready, Will.
Yep. 2 seconds. I'm making everything. I had so much time to prepare that. Okay. I do not believe, even that is kind of a rough start, that climate change is the biggest threat, because if it is, then we would have to put too much resources on climate change and not fix everything that could be as much of a problem as climate change. It's not that climate change is the biggest threat. It's more that if we say it's the biggest threat, then it could lead to other things being even bigger problems than climate change. Yeah.
Is that it?
Anybody else want to jump in?
Sorry, hi. Okay.
No, I think the other side gets it's going person to person to person, not team to team. Is that right, Ava?
No, if you have time left on the 1 minute timer, you can jump in. Someone from your team can jump in.
Oh, and Sync, you can go next if you'd like.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly say, there are a few things that we could do to deal with the problem of climate change. Like, for instance, it's plausible, I don't know how likely it is, that we could planet jump sometime soon. And, there are other ways, like, for instance, living underground and crap like that people have done in the past to deal with harsh climates. So it's not like, it's not like there's no ways that we could come up with. I mean, humans are pretty inventive creatures. No, look, it might sound ridiculous to planet jump, but it isn't really that far off technologically.
That's your minute, InSync.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think that. Yep. What?
Whenever you're ready, bud.
Okay,
just go now.
Okay. Yeah. I think that climate change is bad because if for example if the world is getting warmer with 4 degrees, 90% of the planet will be inhabitable, not 80% of the planet, something like this, and we will all move to Russia, and we will need to relocate billions of people. Plus, most of the planet would be unhospitable, and that is not good. Plus, we need to protect the species which we share the planet with, and I think that the good thing to solve climate change is basically to colonize other planets and use their resources and keep Earth green.
Okay.
Is there any time left?
You got about 10 seconds if anyone wants to add on to that.
I don't know if I got 10 seconds.
That's fine.
I just want to say Will's argument doesn't seem like a good argument, since he says that climate change the solution to climate change can be very tricky, and that's fuck.
I mean, technically, I think you should be able to finish your statement if you're like in the sentence.
All right.
Yeah, just go ahead and finish.
I just want to say that if the way we solve the problem is also bad, that also demonstrate that climate change is a big problem.
Okay, are you done?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So rebuttal time.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say that I believe that climate change is real, is a huge threat to many humans. I don't believe that in the next 100 years it represents the greatest threat to human existence, which would be the annihilation of, which would represent the annihilation of all humans. I believe that nuclear fallout from like geopolitical wars and just human greed in general would be far more deleterious. Number one, climate change is something that it's going to be slow acting. We're going to have plenty of time to recognize the deleterious results and do the sort of defense mechanisms that NSEEK prescribed, which is we could look underground, we could look to, go to a different planet. It'll be something that we see coming. When we had the Cold War, we came precariously close to, pretty much all of civilization ending and mutually assured destruction attaining because of an error in the diagnostic systems, thinking that nukes were being launched in America. If it weren't for the conscience of one pilot, right now the world that we were living in would be vastly different. This was when there were only two global superpowers with nukes. When over the next 100 years, we're finding that global tensions are rising, the nuclear armaments of different countries are increasing, which represents an increasing threat. So we really need to address that. We definitely need to address climate change too, but looking at the relative threat of both of these different threats, I would argue that the nuclear destruction of the countries and the human societies represents the greater existential threat to human existence.
How much time do we have left?
That went on for about a minute and a half.
So, how much is in the rebuttal time? I don't know about this.
How much is the time relevant to the discussion of this particular topic?
No. How much time do you get for a rebuttal? Is it just a minute as well?
It's supposed to be a minute. Each side hops back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah. So just a quick announcement. So Alex left the chat. So Kite wants to join Nano's side of the argument. So I'm just letting you know, and everybody who's on Nano's team, that Kite wants to join your team.
Player has left.
Yeah, Alex has disconnected from the chat. Okay, so once Height is done, now someone from Nano's team, if you want to make a point, just let us know, and you can go ahead.
Okay. So I think I'll make my point now. So I obviously am on the side that it is the biggest threat, and I think that the argument that nuclear fallout is a worse threat is not like super accurate, because for one, if we just do nothing and we just continue going on the path we are going on, currently there is no nuclear fallout, but climate change is getting worse. Secondly, you made a point about we could just move underground or something. If sea levels rise, like we can't really do that because the amount of available land and the amount of land for growing crops and stuff will be significantly reduced. And in terms of things like global tensions increasing over time, once the available land mass and mass refugee crisis of people losing their homes gets worse, I think that's going to cause the global tensions to accelerate even faster, not only making climate change more of a threat, but also increasing the severity of all of the other threats.
Okay.
That would be right at a minute.
At a minute? Okay, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to give every side 2 minutes. So yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So every side has 2 minutes. So Nano's team, if anyone wants to join in, you have another minute left to speak.
Kai, did you? No, they only get 30 seconds now because we only got a minute 30. And then it'll be 2 minutes.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to jump in about 30 seconds, bro.
Okay.
No, wait a second. Height is on your side, insane. Yeah, exactly. When he took a minute and a half.
Yes, so I said they should get a minute and a half now.
To be fair, no one told me to shut up.
Okay,
because
so
I think
does anyone from Nano's team have a point? Kite, Lobo, anything to add?
I'm not on their side, but I can make one.
Sure.
Wait, Kite wants to say something.
Is this the part where I say what I think about whether climate change is the greatest threat to human existence?
Yes.
Okay.
In agreement with the proposition, but you have 30 seconds, so.
Okay. Wait, 30 seconds?
Yep.
Yes.
I think that climate
change my
change is the greatest threat to human existence in the next 100 years.
Okay.
That was
You
4
don't
seconds.
have to use your leftover time. You can just pass it on to you can just just discard it and we can move on to the next team.
Yeah, I'm ready. If that's cool.
Yeah. Is it okay, Astra, if Instinct speaks?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
So just to address what Nano said, he said that I don't know, it sounded like he kind of underestimated the way that the threat works. Like the whole point of what Hyde said is we have a lot of like time to deal with climate change before the effects become critically dangerous to us, basically. Right? Whereas thermonuclear warfare, it's immediate. There is no time, there's no gap where you can say, okay, this is what we're gonna do about it. No, the bombs drop, and like that, like ruins the atmosphere, and there's a nuclear winter. I mean, what are you gonna do about that? It seems like a much, much more prominent threat to the existence of human survival. Also, I mean, the point that you made about there not being enough room for us all to move underwater, I don't care. Well, like my half of the proposition works even if 75% of the human race dies, because it's about the existence of the human race, not about the existence of the whole population. So the other point I wanted to make was, I think what Hyde said about thermonuclear warfare being a bigger imminent threat, that's true, but I can think of an even bigger one, which is AI, right? AI is something that's been advancing a lot in the last couple of years. Robotics are very well advanced, and I think in the next 100 years, it's obvious that we're going to get some leaps in this kind of technology that could represent a significant threat to the existence of humans that far surpasses any kind of incremental damage from climate change.
Okay. Hi. How long was that, Astra?
1 minute 35.
Okay. Anyone
Yeah.
want to add on?
Yeah, so for 25 seconds, Nano, you said if we keep on doing nothing, then climate change will, accelerate. If we do nothing about the global tensions, then the risk of thermonuclear disaster will also accelerate. Your point about we'll all be underwater. Well, only the coast will actually be underwater under most models for climate change. The rest of us will be enduring some sort of climate catastrophes, but we won't be underwater.
That's 2 minutes.
Well, sorry, I just realized that I have to wait.
So it's another rebuttal? I think you can just jump in, man.
Yeah.
Well, I was not saying that the entire surface will be underwater. I was saying that the surface, due to the other adverse effects, will become mostly uninhabitable, and your solution of moving underground is not a solution, because then you're getting even closer to the rising sea level. So unless you're already on the top of like a big ass hill when you move underground, it's not going to work.
That was 27 seconds. Actually, it was 17 seconds.
Kite, do you want to go? You have like more than 190 seconds to talk.
Yes.
Okay, go.
I think that climate change is the greatest threat to humanity in the next 100 years, but primarily because I'm concerned that the long-term consequences of climate change could creep up on us with little or no warning, with animal species or plant species vanishing forever, movement of water and glacial masses, and shifting of carbon levels in the atmosphere, and other factors I don't have time to mention. We may not be afforded a comfortable amount of time to react. On the plus side, if worst comes to worst, we have geoengineered the planet before. It took a few hundred years the last time, but it may not take that much time if we do it on purpose this time. We just shouldn't rely on changing our planet's atmosphere on purpose if we don't have to.
If anyone else wants to make a statement, you've got about 50 seconds.
I guess the other thing I wanted to point out was that it's not, with the issues of climate change, it's not a matter of like if it will happen, because it's already occurring. It's more how far will it get before we have put like systems in place to try and mitigate the effects or slow down the accelerating, like we're not we're doing the opposite of what we should be doing, basically. And so, like, yes, AI could destroy us, and thermonuclear war could destroy us, and if it does occur, the effects will be extremely severe. But with climate change, it's not a maybe, it is occurring.
Okay, I mean, in response to that, like, wars have been occurring for all of human history. I mean, if we want to talk about which one of those things is more likely to happen, more likely to cause, like, some kind of, I don't know, we might not say mass extinction event, but mass human death, right? I think wars have been historically a more common perpetrator of that kind of thing. So to address what Kite said about, I think she made a really good point about like if I mean, so like the idea of plants and animals just disappearing forever, right? That is actually that's something that we can already observe, and we haven't really done anything about it. So I totally agree with that. But I mean, I just basically think that once that starts happening and once it starts really affecting the ecosystem, even if we can't stop that, we'll probably just invent other ways to like a what would you call it? An artificial ecosystem to create food and plants and stuff. Like, it seems likely to me that the ingenuity of humans would triumph over something that we can see coming. It's the imminent disasters that we couldn't do anything against, like a meteor or like AI. Because the thing about AI is that it can build itself up, so it can make leaps much quicker than we could ever put any constraints in place to stop it. Right? We couldn't invent something to defeat AI. Like, that doesn't even make sense. And I just think that we have more control over the factors that would be harming us in the instance of climate change versus something like thermonuclear war, which happens immediately. And dude, you can do nothing. You can do nothing, right? And AI, where again I say you can do nothing. Like, what really? We could talk about iRobot, the 3 laws of robotics, but come on, bro. Any like coherent conception of an AI would be able to do something about it.
That is 2 minutes.
Okay. So Nano's team.
Why do you think that thermonuclear war is inevitable?
I don't really think it's appropriate to ask questions to the other team while another team is supposed to be giving a reply.
No, I mean, he's on Nano's team, so you can ask the question and they can address it when it's their turn to speak, right? Is that all you wanted to say, Lobo?
I also wanna say, even if AI can become a threat, we still control AI. So we don't have any proof that it will lose we will lose that control.
Yeah, and I think that like we have had, like, especially in popular culture, like, it is a very well-known theme that like there is a rogue AI that takes over and then like either destroys humans or enslaves them or something like that. And so I think at least within the next 100 years or so, people are going to be hesitant how much power and how much, like, essentially what capabilities they are letting AI do. Like, it'll most likely, even if we come up with general AI, we won't likely, or at least this is kind of conjecture, but I don't think that we will hand over supreme power or any amount of power that would let it get out of control, at least within the next 100 years. Maybe if it goes well over the next 100 years, we will trust AI more and slowly give it more and more power. But within the next 100 years, I don't think that AI is going to take over.
How much time is left, Astra?
Nano's team has about 45 seconds.
45 seconds.
I think Games wants to speak on that side.
On that, yeah, on the side of Nano. Okay, Games. You can speak if you want, but you have like 45 seconds.
I just wanted to mention the halting problem. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of it. So in AI, when you design an AI, there's this technique called like reinforcement learning, where you designate the goal for the AI, and then the AI sort of comes up with the patterns to get to the goal. So say now you had an AI where you put a red button on its chest, and the goal was for you to not press that button and deactivate the AI. Then the AI would learn patterns to prevent you from pressing that button at all times. So like one sort of example of that would be it would learn to lie to you so that it could not be deactivated. Do you understand?
Yeah, but that implies that you've set the goal for the AI to be self-preservant.
Well, no, let's say now we set the goal for the AI to make a cup of tea, and there was a baby in the way of the AI and making a cup of tea. The AI will not care about the baby at all being in the way of it making a cup of tea and will then hurt the baby. If you go to press the button to turn off the AI, it will stop you from pressing that button because you are stopping it from its goal.
Okay, can we debate this after this topic is over? Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so Height, InSync, Will, any rebuttals?
All right. So yeah, one thing that was said before, I said that Nano was talking about, we'll be underwater, so we won't be able to go underground. I rebutted and said, just the coast will be underwater. He said that as I understand him correctly, that the rest of, central land masses will be uninhabitable unless you're on a very tall peak or something like that. Then you won't be able to do very well. Although I would argue instead that number one, we were advocating that you could go underground in these instances, and especially given the amount of time and human ingenuity and innovation and technology, when we can foresee this threat, there will surely be bunkers capable of being established in central land masses. And secondly, the admission that high places do exist and we will be able to relocate to those. Yes, many people will die, but again, we're talking about the existential threat to humanity. So I wanted to go to that. I also wanted to talk about Nano raised the issue of the refugee crisis will cause global tensions to accelerate and therefore will also exacerbate the risk of nuclear war. So that might be thought of as a primary cause. Even if we do end up in nuclear annihilation, well, then I could posit, okay, what about what's leading to man-made climate change and accelerationism right now, and nuclear war, and perhaps even the threat of AI? Something like positing that human greed or basic human nature would then be the greatest existential threat to humanity, because we're the ones that are polluting the atmosphere. We're the ones who are chopping down the rainforest so that we can live these lives of luxury in the first world developed nations, and ultimately dooming our planet. And these are also the same drives and motivations that are leading to geopolitical conflict, that are escalating these wars and these tensions. The last thing I wanted to respond to is Lobo said, "Why is nuclear war inevitable?" And I just wanted to reiterate what Instinct pointed out: war is inevitable.
That is 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll do that later. Thanks.
Okay. So we have about, I want to say, a little less than 15 minutes before this topic would have to be wrapped up. So from the other side, do I have anyone making a rebuttal?
I'm trying to collect my thoughts.
If no one else wants to, I can defend it.
Yeah, go ahead while I think about how I want to respond.
All right.
I'll time you. Yeah. Okay, you can.
That's all right. I got my timer up.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't believe that nuclear warfare would be anywhere near as severe an existential threat to the existence of humanity as, say, man-made climate change would be, because of a few different things. One of them would be the conscience of humans on Earth. We have seen many, many times where a slight mistake in geopolitical tensions could have led to nuclear annihilation. We have seen many instances where people who were put in the position where use of nuclear arms could have been done. One of them being in 1963 in the Gulf of Mexico, where a Russian submarine almost sent a nuclear torpedo towards the United States military base in Havana, and various others involving war games, such as the 1984, I believe they were, war games in the southern Arctic Ocean, where Russia believed that the United States was about to launch an attack against Russia. But the caution of humanity eventually led to a complete stand down, and we avoided the subject. I don't believe that humanity would be anywhere near more likely to annihilate themselves through nuclear warfare because of the inherent risks involved. And I don't believe that any country on the face of the planet actually believes that no humanity is better than humanity in its current form, regardless of the tensions that are being created.
So
that's
Nana's
basically all
side
I could
has
say.
about 35 more seconds. Nope.
Well, I can also mention, so there have been many models over the past few decades about mapping thermonuclear fallout, or nuclear fallout rather, as a result of nuclear war. The most recent models that we have suggest that the overwhelming majority of nuclear fallout would be isolated to the doldrums, an area around the equator, which would result in the overwhelming majority of the landmass on Earth not being contaminated by nuclear fallout, meaning that nuclear warfare would not be a significant detriment to the overall existence of humanity. I do not believe that AI would be either, because of various innovations that are being made in the field, but I continue to say that climate change would probably be the most relevant.
Yeah, we have entire organizations dedicated to ensuring that when we develop AI, we are extremely careful to ensure it is safe before we give it even the slightest amount of power over anything.
Okay, so
Okay, that's time.
in the first instance, like saying that there are innovations in the field, that doesn't support the point at all. I don't know what that means, because what that means to me is that the AI is getting more advanced, which would essentially make the threat more prominent. It wouldn't mitigate it. And what Nana said about us having a bunch of organizations that are dedicated to, I don't know, establishing like ground rules that will bind it before we give it any control of anything. Like, this all assumes that the AI that you end up making, that you do want to put in charge of it, isn't clever enough to figure a way around your rules. Because humans have been constructing rules for each other for centuries, and we're very good actually at constructing ways to get around them, believe it or not. That's what being intelligent means, is that you have a dynamic attitude to the world. So when your goal is compromised by the material conditions of your existence, you come up with a way to overcome them. So I mean, you're essentially just assuming that humans in total, like humans working together, would be smarter than a super smart AI. That just seems absurd in my mind. There's one other thing I wanted to say, but I can't remember it. So, Hyatt, do you have anything to add?
There was one thing I wanted to add. The climate change cannot be the greatest threat to human existence. If you look, for example, at COVID-19, which was, I would say, quite mild, not mild, but it wasn't too much of a harsh disease or virus or whatever. And it was extremely, out of nowhere. And we saw how people reacted in the West, widespread panic and such. So I don't think we can say that climate change is the greatest threat. Something as not as violent as COVID-19, because there was a lot more dangerous viruses in the past, as rise tensions like crazy. So I don't think it makes sense to say that climate change is the greatest threat, because it really isn't.
How much time do we have left?
2 minutes. There you go.
That's
That's time.
Damn it. Okay.
Okay,
Nana?
so I just want to say that, like, once Nano's team has their 2 minutes, then we are going to give each team 2 minutes to do their closing statements, because we're coming towards the end of the time allocated for this argument. Okay. Okay, so Nano's team, do you have a
Okay,
rebuttal?
so to address that point, like, while I do agree that it is possible that some new threat that we are completely unaware of today could surface, And we should try and take precautions where possible to try and prevent such a thing from having widespread consequences around the globe. Given if we just examine all of the current threats that we are aware of today, I feel like that the risk of climate change just exceeds all the others. And to address your point about humans having to be like smarter than the AI in order to prevent it taking over, my whole point originally about that was not that we have to like outsmart the AI. It's more that like before the AI is even put into place, you have to be like very sure that it is contained and in such a way that it is like basically physically impossible for it to escape such a containment. Like if it is like not connected to anything besides what it is doing, if it has like a method of being disabled, like if we are aware of the risks and we build safety mechanisms into the system itself, like that we currently do that even with like AI that is not some kind of existential threat. And so I don't see why we would stop doing that going forward.
How much time do they have, Astra?
It's got about 25 seconds, and I'm going to use that to reply to InSync.
Okay.
I do not believe that you could use the argument that innovations in the field does not constitute a sufficient enough argument to say that AI would not become a significant threat to humanity in the long term. When you said that innovations in the field relevant to the capture of various emissions in the atmosphere would be done to prevent man-made climate change from becoming an issue in the long-term future as well.
Okay, so hang on. This is the start of the closing statements. So each side gets 2 minutes, right? So we start with this team and then we move on to Nana's team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go.
I'm just going to think for a sec, gather my thoughts.
Okay, that's fine. Just whenever you're ready, we'll start the time.
You said you wanted to start, right, NSYNC?
Yeah.
It's a 3-minute period, right?
No, 2 minutes.
From
when
it should
they
be
start.
3 minutes. I reckon it should be because there's 3 members on each team. Come on.
Fine, 3 minutes.
Yeah. What's up?
InSync trying to change the rules. Fucking mod abuse.
Yeah. Okay. So just to address the thing that Astra said about innovations in the field, like the thing is that innovations in the field, which is to say making the AI better, that's not the same thing as coming up with ways to constrain what we don't understand about it, which is what it would turn into. Whereas we understand a lot about what climate change would turn into. We're pretty aware of that. We just don't do anything about it. So Nana said something about humans like being like super cautious before ever putting it into a position of power. I really just think that you are overestimating how cautious humans are with this kind of thing and how, I don't know, prepared for something that could think outside our boxes we would be. I don't think that makes any sense. Like it just doesn't, it doesn't fly for me. So just quickly to examine the actual motion, right? It's about the greatest threat to human existence, right? So the survival of humans. It seems to me that anything that is gradual and incremental is always going to be less of a threat than something that's immediate. And there are many things, many of them unknown, that could happen to us. I mean, there's an idea called the Great Filter, which is essentially the idea that the only reason we've never met any intelligent life before is because there's some kind of event that always wipes them out before they get to a spacefaring stage, right? So one example is a huge fucking meteor, and that's just one example of something immediate and critical that could happen to obliterate life on Earth. And that kind of imminent threat, I think, will always be more of a threat to human existence than any kind of gradual incremental threat.
Yeah, Will, did you want to say?
Asked me to say when there was only a minute left. There is only about 25 seconds left.
Okay,
Unless
so
someone
this-
wants to allow them to speak longer.
I am sorry, Hyde.
Life goes on.
I'll speed through this very quickly. I forgot to say earlier about with COVID-19. When I meant the attention to the West, I especially meant mental health. I think mental health would be a more greater to human existence than climate change. It's growing faster and it's a lot more deadly right now. Depression, everything that has to relate to mental health.
That is one of the arguments that I also proposed. I said that if we were looking at, Nano said that if we look at the refugee crisis, it's going to increase global tensions and increase the risk of nuclear threat. I proposed, human greed, mental instability, these types of things in human nature would also be seen as the largest thing. I mean, we could say that human consciousness prevented these things in the past, but I think that I described very succinctly earlier that the conditions of global tensions are increasing. There's going to be more superpowers. These cases are going to be disanalogous to the Cold War, and when somebody in that mental unstable state has the button, they are more likely to press it than the conscious individuals that prevented our apocalypse narrowly previously.
That's 2 minutes.
Okay, so Nano's team closing statements. We're gonna try to keep everybody making the statement 1 minute. If someone on the team doesn't want to make a statement, then their team members can eat up their time. Okay.
Okay. So just real quick address my closing statement to the point about mental health. I think that is so abstracted away that you could take it one step further and say the passage of time is the greatest threat to humanity. And so I think that it makes more sense to look at the tangible, real-world consequences of actions rather than the abstract, the most abstract causes of those. To address, what was Instinct's point?
I think he said something about the great filter.
Yeah, I said the great filter. I said the meteor.
In terms of some immediate threat to humans that we don't have time to react to, yes, it is possible. Of the ones that we have listed today, I don't think that they are a greater threat overall than climate change. When you're doing a risk analysis of a situation, you sort of say, okay, what is the severity of the risk versus the probability, right? Yes, it is possible that a giant gamma ray burst or something from a star far away could pass through the Earth and just vaporize all of the cells in all of the life on Earth. That is a possibility. But what is the probability of that occurring? And I think that you need to take the probability into account when determining what is the greatest threat. And I think that the probability that climate change is going to continue is basically 100% unless we completely invert the human way of life tomorrow.
How much time do they have left, Astra?
Total left is about 35 seconds. I thought you said 1 minute per person in closing statements. Or is that right?
Yeah, they get 3 minutes. They get 3 minutes total. So ideally, it would be 1 minute each person, right? But yeah, but so since we have about 25 seconds left. Lobo.
Oh no, if there's 3 minutes in total, they have about 1 minute and 35 seconds left.
Okay, they have 1 minute and 35 seconds left. So
I just want to add that. I just want to add that the probability, I agree that a nuclear war, a nuclear bomb, or an alien invasion is more deadly, but I don't think it's too probable within the next 100 years. Because in the case of the meteorite, the deadliest meteorite in the next 100 years is called, I think it's called Apophis, and it has a probability of 1/55,000 to hit the Earth. So I think we can discard that.
Okay. Kite, did you want to say anything?
You have about 50 seconds. No pressure.
Wow. If you want to take a few seconds to think, that's fine. If Nano wants to say something in the remaining 50 seconds, that's fine.
Just a quick point of
I'll
all
give
of
the time
the.
to start.
Oh, sorry. You go. Okay. I was gonna say, of all of the alternative threats that have been raised, I think that AI probably is the biggest one. But given that the question, like, if the question was what is the greatest threat to humans in the next 200 years, I would probably say AI. But in the next 100, I don't think that AI will be in a position to wipe out the species either intentionally or unintentionally within the next 100 years.
Okay. Kite, did you still want to say anything?
Yes.
Okay.
You got 30 seconds.
Basically, just that in the scope of geoengineering, which I mentioned before, that there are many different options we could pursue, but for obvious reasons, most of the options that we have available to us now that we already know about would be temporary solutions. They would buy us time. They would not permanently fix it.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, I think that's a wrap on this topic. So in the text chat, I'm going to post a poll so that everybody who is in this voice chat who has been observing this debate can vote on who they think did a better job on the topic. So you vote by reacting to the emojis corresponding to the position. I have put down people's names next to what position they were representing. Okay, so I'm going to post the poll, and once that poll is done, we're going to move on to the next topic, which is marriage privatization. So if you want to debate that, please post that in the text chat. Okay, so I'm going to post the poll now. Yes, you can vote for your own team. Well, I already put it here, so it's okay.
Yeah, but it'll get hidden. It'll get hidden.
I'll pin it. Don't worry.
Fine. Fine.
You can vote for your own team. Come on. At least vote for your own team. What is this?
Oh shit, bro. Look at that fucking poll.
I think it would be a better idea if there were like a separate chat that no one could post in except for staff. So then the poll wouldn't be hidden as more people talk in the chat.
I'll pin it, don't
That's
worry.
what I said about information, motherfucker.
Come on, yes team, vote for your own team. What's wrong with you guys?
That's where they got all their votes.
No, it's me. Oh my god. It's me, it's Lobo, it's Epic. Voting for, oh, there you go. Let's see. Nano Epic Lobo. Sad. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna pin that result. Okay. So we have about like 5 to 10 minutes for the next topic to start. And I'm just gonna post that topic again in the text chat so that people can start reacting to it if they want to debate it. Okay.
If we've got about 5 or 10 minutes to start, I want to respond to something that InSync said.
Yeah, go for it.
InSync, one of the criticisms that you levied towards me was based on a misinterpretation of what you believed I said. When I said innovations in the field relevant to AI, I wasn't talking about innovations in the field to make AI better. I was talking about innovations that would be relevant to us being able to have a greater understanding of AI and possibly being able to put shackles on it such that it would not be in a situation where it could usurp humanity and pose a significant threat to us. You saying that innovations in the field is basically me saying making AI better is like me saying innovations in the field with regard to you saying that we would be able to use our experience and ingenuity to better trap emissions in the atmosphere simply refers to us being able to increase production such that we would be able to throw more emissions in the atmosphere.
Okay. So what was the thing you said again? Could you just repeat it for me?
I said that innovations in the field of AI, and specifically this is relevant to shackles that we would put on it, such that we would be able to.
I just don't buy that. There's a kind of like recursion problem where you get to the brink of an AI that can teach itself things you didn't teach it how to learn. And at that point, I don't know what kind of shackles would work. Like, that seems like a nonsense idea to me that you could shackle something that could outwit you. It doesn't work like that.
Sure, and this is why I wouldn't use groups such as Alphabet as an example of where AI development could take us that is ethical, because Alphabet, for example, Google's parent company, has developed AI that is capable of self-correction and being able to teach itself new things.
But
I would
that's
use an example of various examples such as Elon Musk's Neuralink, which is for ethical development of AI such that we would be able to which the
yeah,
entire
no,
thing
yeah,
is based on starting with the
for
shackles
sure.
and building the AI around that to ensure it cannot break out of this.
I mean, I agree with you that we should do that kind of thing more, but like, there is no law preventing Google from doing their thing, and all it takes is one. It only takes one.
Also, on the topic of the alphabet thing, does anyone else know that in 2018, when they restructured Google under the ownership of Alphabet, they removed "Don't be evil" from the motto?
Yes,
Really?
Yeah.
they have not had "Don't be evil" as their motto for a couple of years now.
That's crazy, bro. Like that's conspiracy material right there.
I'm sure that someone's come up with something.
If you didn't hear, but I said that the discrimination is not exclusive to the population. The state itself has also been historically been responsible for I think pretty much every case of the denial of marriage for anyone who is homosexual or of the wrong religion that in recorded history. I'm not aware of a single case where the um, general population has denied it. Perhaps in recent history, areas in
let's see. Trees don't produce. Okay, let's say trees produce nitrogen. I don't know, just for example. I don't know, that's just an idea. Okay, now the way you actually know that a tree produces nitrogen is that first of all you must have evidence for that. Am I correct in saying that?
I'll let you continue.
Logic
I
and
don't reject it
there's a lot.
100%, but I think that's something we don't
Whether
know.
you reject logic or you think logic is the right way to understand reality.
Yeah, those are
Logic
the
can hold me
options.
of thinking certain thinking.
Okay, look, let me put it to you like this, Asuma, okay? Either you reject logic or you accept logic, and if you reject that dichotomy, you implicitly reject logic because that's the law of the excluded middlemate.